Hezbollah को अगर हराना है, you have to penetrate its intelligence, its leadership, its command and control network. Now the Israelis learn at some point that the Hezbollah believed that the cellular network, the mobiles, were penetrated by Pegasus software and unfit for use. To reinforce the Hezbollah fear of cellular networks being unsafe and pushing the Hezbollah towards pagers, all part of our 8 to 10 year long intelligence operation. Fajr 4 and Fajr 5, sophisticated missiles, accurate, capable of penetrating the defenses of Tel Aviv, Haifa, and a whole lot of other military bases. Now, this has been happening for a long time, but the geolocators enable precise targeting of their best missiles, and the Hezbollah is left aghast. So, they are not very good friends otherwise, but Netanyahu does a deal with Erdogan. Viewers, Jai Hind. आप सबको नववर्ष की शुभकामनाएं. A very happy new year. May you have a wonderful 2025. Today I shall recount a fascinating story. I mean, now that these things are coming out, this story is of the coming together of Israeli intelligence, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, all of Israeli statecraft actually, to respond to the challenge mounted by Iran and its proxies, the recent events which have happened in Lebanon, Syria. Now that the details are out, I wish to put them together for you. So, Israeli intelligence, the IDF and its statecraft came together to decimate the Hezbollah and weaken, dismantle the Shia Crescent, Iran, its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, so on and so forth. So this is an account which has now been put together by Ronen Bergman, a very famous Israeli investigative journalist, but it makes for some very, interesting listening. And that is what we will discuss today, the decimation of the Hezbollah. Now the decimation of the Hezbollah, I'm told, according to Ronen Bergman, was a 2-decade long endeavor. Abhi nahi shuru hua tha. It starts way back in 2006 of some brilliant legwork by Israeli intelligence and its penetration of the Hezbollah, which began, as I said, in the immediate aftermath of the Israeli failure in 2006. You all know that Israel, attacked Lebanon in 2006. The ground operation did not go well at all. And that's the time Israeli intelligence said that this is not the way to beat Hezbollah. Hezbollah ko agar harana hai, you have to penetrate its intelligence, its leadership, its command and control network, and it's the strongest metric in its arsenal, which is its missiles. And this is what they precisely did. And the work begins in 2006 and picks up intensity by 2014. And a new plan for the war with the Hezbollah is based on this intelligence penetration and precise targeting. 70% of Israeli intelligence, its manpower, technology, and budgetary resources, Mossad, Shin Bet, 8200, 9300, and all of that were directed towards the Hezbollah. Of course, the Mossad, which is responsible for human, so all the human penetration, Unit 8200, which is about SIGINT, cyber, so on and so forth, and the IDF collaborated brilliantly. Now, one of the principal architects of the decapitation of the Hezbollah, of course, was former Defense Minister Gallant, who resigned recently over differences with Netanyahu. But he, right from the day October, the attack across from Gaza took place, he was arguing that the real enemy was not Hamas, but Hezbollah. And, so there were many people like him who were saying that the Hezbollah has to go. And as I said, it begins in 2006, picks up intensity in 2014. What happens? The Israelis over the years create these identities, cover human agents, and an elaborate network of business and commerce to penetrate the command and control, communications, and supply chain entities of the Hezbollah. Without this, the decimation of the Hezbollah was not be possible. So look at intelligence. It is about all these things. It is about being long-term. It is about being technological. And diverse buttons are installed in the Hezbollah network, but operated remotely from Tel Aviv when the opportune moment comes, which came in the September, October of last year. Now the Israelis learn at some point that the Hezbollah believed that the cellular network, the mobiles, were penetrated by Pegasus software and unfit for use. So what the Unit 200 does is that it launches a sophisticated information operation on Arabic websites, Arabic newspapers, Arabic media channels to reinforce the Hezbollah fear of cellular networks being unsafe and pushing the Hezbollah towards pagers. And Nasarollah himself made this statement that the time has come to put all your mobiles in your boxes and turn to pagers. But what the Israeli intelligence has done was that they were keeping track of this fascination of Nasarollah and the Hezbollah with pagers. And they learned that the Hezbollahs were also dissatisfied with the Asian pager company Apollo that they were negotiating with, because the pagers that they were supplying were not ruggedized enough. I mean, they were sophisticated instruments, they say sexy instruments, but not ruggedized enough for military use. So the Israeli intelligence now poses as subcontractors to ruggedize the pagers. कि हम आपके जो pagers हैं उनको military use के लिए तैयार करेंगे. And in the process of doing so, as we all know, they booby-trap the pagers with explosives to potentially target 5,000 odd Hezbollah commanders. So it's a plan that when the Hezbollah migrates to pagers, they are already being penetrated through penetrating this very elaborate supply chain network, and the target is the Hezbollah commanders. But ये सब हुआ है 5-6 साल में, long term. In a similar vein, Unit 8200 infiltrates the supply chain network of 15,000 strong ICOM walkie-talkies, which were to be used by the soldiers in the field, the rank and the file, and similarly booby traps them with explosives. Look at this, how long-term, how fascinating. And the effect of the exploding pagers and walkie-talkies when the offensive begins, as we all know, was diabolical. The feeling of humiliation, penetration, misery, horror and fear was intense. When these pagers began exploding, what we call as the beeper explosion, a helpless and hapless Nasarollah saw apex commanders collapsing all around him, losing eyes, losing hands and legs in sheer agony. Such imagery caused a considerable loss of morale amongst the commanders. I mean, we all can imagine what would be happening. The commanders themselves being hit by exploding pagers, all part of a 8 to 10 year long intelligence operation. And a similar thing happens with the Hezbollah rank and file when the ICOM walkie-talkie sets begin to explode. Now, so you've targeted command and control, you've targeted rank and file. Now they know that Nasrallah says, all right, get to your missiles, the strongest weapon in our armory, Fajr 4 and Fajr 5. Sophisticated missiles, accurate, capable of penetrating the defenses of Tel Aviv, Haifa, and a whole lot of other military bases. These missiles were dispersed in houses, private farms, balconies, shops, malls on a rental basis. So civilians were offered, if you keep one missile, say $100, two missiles, $300. Now Israeli intelligence also penetrated this missile rental network and installed on these missiles geolocators which would be used for subsequent targeting by the Israeli Air Force. Look at how sophisticated all this is. Pagers, walkie-talkies, geolocators on these missiles. Unit 8200 over these 8 to 10 years also extracted and shaped, data of the Hezbollah from its headquarters, missile location networks, leadership hideouts, logistics installations, ammunition depots. So they had a whole, topology of targeting prepared over the years. So they had a careful plan for a war with the Hezbollah. And the one fatal mistake that Nasarollah made, the Israelis acknowledged that nobody knew the Israelis as well as Nasarollah. That's why he was such a towering figure. But when a German interlocutor meets Nasarollah, Nasarollah tells him that the Israelis will not go to war with us again. 2006, they have suffered a bloody nose, never war. Not knowing that this whole intelligence-enabled war plan was in the works. Now, do things go wrong in such operations? Of course. Sometime along the way, one Hezbollah technical operator smells a rat. He knows that there is something amiss in this. This whole business, something is wrong. Immediately, he is assassinated by Mossad. Look, quick action. But that doesn't prove to be good enough. Weeks before the operation, sometime in September 2024, amidst growing suspicion of Israeli penetration into this pager walkie-talkie network, 3 pagers walkie-talkies are sent to Tehran for deeper investigation. Matlab, the cover is about to be blown. Unit 8200 immediately alerts Mossad. The Mossad chief goes to Netanyahu, who's dithering about this war with Lebanon, American pressure, other geostrategic reasons, and tells Prime Minister Netanyahu, now or never. Use it or lose it. Our cover is about to be blown. We must go to war and, decimate the Hezbollah. Persuading Netanyahu perhaps to give the go-ahead for the operation. All this while he was not agreeing with Gallant, but now he agrees. And the go-ahead for the operation is given in a carefully designed chronology and synchrony. First, the pagers to target the commanders explode. So those 5,000 odd commanders, many of them get taken out. Then the walkie-talkies to target the frontline troops and the rank and file. So death and misery here in the commanders, death and misery in the rank and file. And immediately on the 3rd and 4th night, the Israeli Air Force launches these strikes on the missile arsenal enabled by the geolocators. Now this has been happening for a long time, but the geolocators enable precise targeting of their best missiles, and the Hezbollah is left aghast. When many of these missiles are just taken out, they wonder, how do they know the precise locations? In every farm, in every mall, in every shot. Now, command and control out of the way, rank and file severely degraded, the missiles gone, only Nasarollah remains. And Nasarollah is refusing to heed the advice of his Iranian counterparts to relocate to a safer hideout. In fact, an Iranian general flies in from Tehran and tells Nasarollah that please move out. You are our biggest asset and the Israelis will take you out. Nasarollah somehow is under the illusion and he says, they will never hit me directly. Unknown to him, just as Prime Minister Netanyahu ascends the podium in New York on 26 September 24, the Mossad tells him that Nasarollah may be moving out of his location. Now is the time to hit, now or never. So just as Netanyahu ascends the podium in New York on 26 September 24 to address the UN General Assembly, when the charade has been let out, that some kind of deal is being struck by Nasarollah, Israeli F-15s carrying 84 tons target Nasarollah's bunker in Dahiya, and Nasarollah dies, not from blast or sharpened wounds, but of suffocation. The story also goes that he is in embrace with the Iranian general who had come to persuade him. So their last moment on earth, they spend in desperation, in mutual consolation, and die in each other's arms. Now, the Hezbollah is so badly decimated, no commanders, degraded rank and file, no missiles, no Nasarollah. They have no option but to settle for a ceasefire. So the point is that, this military stuff didn't happen in a day. It is decades of intelligence, legwork, quick action, agility, fleet-footedness, sheer military brilliance. It is amazing. And therefore I thought I must share this story with you. A word about the larger statecraft. Look at Netanyahu's design. October 2023, after the attack from Gaza, he's on the back foot. Then he makes this plan that, listen, I will of course do what I am doing to Hamas, but I must take out Hezbollah. I must take out the AD defenses in Syria and take the fight to Iran. That is exactly what he does. It is now reasonably clear that on 26th October 24, the Israeli attack on Iran with the F-35 stealth aircraft and all the American assistance was pretty effective. The AD was weakened substantially, their missile arsenals, or at least their missile hideouts were struck, the missile logistics was targeted, and after 26th October 24, Iran weakened. We know what they did to Hezbollah, and now they know is the time to move on Syria. Syria is so critical because it is the logistics conduit for Hezbollah. Now it's quite clear that all the missiles, all the ammunition, all the supply routes were all coming through Syria. So Netanyahu senses the moment that this is the military logistics conduit for Hezbollah. Now is the time to take it out. So on 18 November 24, heads of Shin Bet, which is the Israeli intelligence, and Turkish intelligence meet. So they are not very good friends otherwise, but Netanyahu does a deal with Erdogan, or some such thing happened. 25th November, Erdogan and the NATO chief meet. Of course, Erdogan has his own interests because of Kurds and so on and so forth. He's not getting along with Bashar al-Assad, but green lighting comes. And on 26th November, as we all know, HTS, Abu Julani, launches an attack on Aleppo with 15,000 troops, tank division, and with a battalion of FPV drones. And the rest, as we all know, is history. We've discussed in an episode prior of how the Syrian army comes apart. But the issue is of this Israeli statecraft. See that how intelligence, how it targets the Hezbollah, and the larger design, taking the battle to Iran, taking out Syria when the opportune moment comes, reaching out to Turkey, reaching out to NATO, and of course the Americans are always on this side. And whatever happens in Syria, and why do they do it on Syria? Because Syria's two crutches, Iran is weakened, Hezbollah is decimated. And so you have this HTS offensive, which is now very clear, was driven, encouraged by Turkey, Israel, NATO, and the USA. So the larger point is this. The last time Israel was challenged was in 1967, when Arab nationalism mounted a challenge. We all know Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Israel survived that challenge and in fact came off as a victor and acquired this invincible image. Now Iran and its proxies challenged this image of invincibility over the last 8 to 9 years. Suddenly Israel began to look weak. Hamas, Hezbollah, what happened in Gaza, the Houthis targeting. But what they have done in recent times by decimation of Hezbollah, weakening Iran, weakening the Shiite Crescent, Iran and its proxies, see what they have done in Syria. I think they have successfully repulsed the second challenge mounted by Iran and the Shiite Crescent, or very fundamentalist Islamism, is what this challenge has been successfully repulsed by Israel. So I think full credit to, at this point, to Israeli intelligence, Israeli statecraft, how their military comes together. And in many ways, it is a lesson for other militaries to emulate. But this is not the end of the matter. I mean, we all know that Iran is a very powerful nation. I'm sure it must be planning something, all kinds of possibilities. But 2025, promises to be even more interesting and exciting. So I thought I will share this story with you about restoration of the image of Israeli invincibility through intelligence and statecraft. I hope you like this episode. Thank you very much, viewers. Jai Hind and Namaskar.